Greetings everyone, my name is Eterville, and welcome to my Let's Try of the pre-alpha demo of Eagle Island, a 2D roguelite action platformer in development by Pixelnicks. At the bottom below you can see that it has a Kickstarter link, but thankfully by this point the Kickstarter has been fulfilled, and for good reason. I quite enjoyed this game, so I'll be spending up to about the next 30 minutes going through this demo and showing off two of the modes. Specifically standard demo and challenge mode. Seeded speedrun mode is basically like the normal mode, but instead you have to go through a set seed and complete it as quickly as possible. In fact, there is a reward for completing this under 2 minutes, but that'll be in the final game. So I'll be going through the standard demo and then I'll show off the challenge mode. Let's begin. So here we control the boy named Quill as well as his owl named Koji. This door will lead to the hub world, as this is a roguelite after all, so we will maintain some upgrades and progression. And in the final game there will be at least 8 distinct areas. In this demo there will only be one area, specifically this jungle themed one. Anyways, I'm going to be using the keyboard. In the final game I wish there's going to be rebindable keys, because some of the keys are a little bit awkward, personally speaking. Alright, to move around just use the arrow keys, press X to jump, and in order to fling Koji, your owl, forwards or in any direction, because he's your only means for attack, hold C and then you can fire him off in 8 different directions. Be more careful though, you only have a short period of time before he gets launched forward. So if you jump in the air you can select 8 different directions, so you can fire in the normal 4 cardinal directions as well as that. And you can actually freeze in midair for a short period of time once you do that. So you can reorient yourself if necessary. And of course, you may have noticed that once I destroy those enemies quickly, it starts a combo meter. You need to keep a combo running in order to collect more and more gems, and these gems are necessary in order to use the feathers, which are the elemental abilities that Koji can use. If you press Z, you can see all the feathers that we have. We have 4 feather types essentially. We have the normal feather, which is Koji's normal form, has no special abilities. And we have the ice feather ability, which freezes enemies in place, which I'll show over here. And for stronger enemies it's useful, but for here, because all enemies die in one hit, it's not really that useful. It's better for bosses, mini-bosses, and tougher foes. Unfortunately, every use of these feathers costs 1 gem, so you need to be good at comboing in order to get more of these abilities. But you gotta be fast, otherwise you won't get the gems. Which can be a little bit challenging depending on how the random generation of these levels is done. After all, this is a roguelite, so every time you re-enter the world or you die, a new level will be regenerated. Across the world you'll find these treasure chests being guarded by magpies. If you have enough gold seeds, or gold as I call it, you'll be able to unlock the treasure and get one of the random items within. Like in this case a healing tear, which is a temporary, it's basically an emergency healing droplet. So if you're at really low health, Koji will drop a healing tear that you can use in order to get up to a higher amount of health. In this game you only have about 3 points of health before dying. I really wish it was 4 points of health, mainly for the boss fights, but we'll get to that soon enough. On the top left we can see Quill's health as well as the number of gems he has, the gold. In the middle of the screen we can see all the upgrades he has, you can only hold up to 4. And on the top right we see the minimap. After all, it is kind of like a Metroidvania. By pressing enter we can see the entirety of the map, as where we visited, what the new areas are, the grayed out areas, as well as some hidden areas, or areas that we haven't visited yet, or aren't shown on the map yet. And another neat feature of getting higher and higher combos is that you get more gold seeds. This will be more important in the final game when we'll have shops, I presume. And of course the combos become shorter and shorter, or the time for making combos become shorter and shorter as you get higher and higher successions. As you saw over here, we face 2 enemy types, the piranha plants and mushrooms. The piranha plants, when you're nearby them, they'll try snapping at you. And the mushrooms, if you stay close to them for too long a period of time, they'll release poison gas horizontally. And these birds, once you get close enough to them, they'll rotate horizontally around you. These owl statues will act like quick warps in the final game. Now let me show off I'll show off the other feathers once I get to better situations, because as I showed before, the ice feather is better for tougher enemies and mini-bosses. Otherwise you'll basically just waste it. The other two feathers are better for certain situational scenarios, which I'll show off soon enough. Another Phoenix tier, although I would really like a different scenario to use it. Or I would like a different upgrade. And don't worry, the Kickstarter has succeeded, so no need to back it now. It was very successful. Okay, here's a good time to show off the power-ups. You can also do a quick switching of the feathers just like in Mega Man by pressing A and S. Although I'd rather press S because it freezes everything in place. So if you're really in a pinch, just use Z or whatever button you have set to that. So the next one I'm going to show is the Wind Feather. What it does is normally when Koji hits an enemy he'll return back to you, but if you use the Wind Feather, it'll actually pass through as many enemies as possible before returning back to you, which is great for long lines of foes like this one. Like for example here, if I aim at it correctly, as you can see here I easily hit 3 of those enemies at once and got a lot of gold in the process. And of course, in addition to the unlockable treasure chests, we have these normal ones which always drop healing items or extra gold. And the final tier, or final actually, feather, is the explosive feather. Essentially, Koji becomes like an explosive whenever he hits an enemy or wall, he'll detonate and create a small explosion. It's best for enemies who are grouped up or bunched up, but not for enemies who are in a line. So there's a nice duality, or there's a nice amount of flexibility with the number of feathers you have for different scenarios. Like here, this will be a good situation for the lightning feather or wind feather. But be warned, there is a maximum range that Koji can go through, but you can upgrade it if you get certain upgrades, which I do appreciate, but you have to find them though. So in general, I find the wind feather and explosive feather or fire feather to be the best, and the cold feather or ice feather to be best for the bosses specifically. After all, most of the enemies in this demo, there are only about 5 enemy types. Most of them take one hit to destroy, so it's better to use either the normal feather, fire, or wind. I'm getting a lot of healing tears, my goodness. I really would like some of the other upgrades, like increasing the number of gems I could have, the map, the compass, etc. Usually when I'm not recording, I get them in my first or second treasure chest, but because I'm recording, well, the LP is cursed after all, so I'm not really getting those items. Okay, now I got the compass. This will reveal all of the unopened treasure chests on the map, just like in Zelda. And using this, it also shows what all the quick warp statues are. And you can see roughly where the map will lead up to, so I can see where the boss is of this map. Another thing I really like about this game, well, first off is the music. It's pretty atmospheric and peaceful to listen to, and it's pretty nice. It's really befitting of the jungle theme of this game. But the thing I really like the most about this game, other than the tight physics and nice combat, and how the stringing together combos is always pretty nice and rewarding, is the graphics. Instead of the usual 8-bit graphics, 8-bit retro-styled NES graphics that many indie games go for, we instead have the 16-bit, well, higher resolution 16-bit NES graphics. Something like Owlboy, maybe not as high definition as Owlboy, but similar to that. I kinda prefer that aesthetic compared to the 8-bit NES aesthetic, mainly because, well, after playing through so many 8-bit NES-styled retro titles, I kinda find it to be overused. Many games don't really use it that badly, it's just kind of like a crutch for lack of artistic skill or merit. So it's nice to see that we're finally going to 16-bit. 8-bit styles have gotten their time in the limelight, but I would really like to see more SNES or PS1 style pixel art graphics, or more high-bit style graphics. Even for 8-bit, I would like to see more high-bit style graphics like somewhat like Hyperlight Drifter, or more specifically Owlboy. I would really like to see more games to use Owlboy's graphical style and see how far it can be extended. As, like I said, 8-bit NES retro style has been a low-bit style or low-res style has been used enough. I wouldn't mind there being more usage of low-bit style, low-res style if it's like the PS1 3D flat textured ones. So right now I'd like to be looking more for 16-bit and 32-bit styled pixel art high-res graphics, or sort of, or high-bit graphics as some would say. In these rooms we have to fight a wave of enemies in a quick succession. In this case we have to fight all those moles. which can be quite annoying because you have to wait for them to come out of the ground before you can hit them. But thankfully they're not too bad. Although you gotta be cautious because Quill only has 3 points of health before dying. I really wish in the final game there's an option to increase it to 4 or 5, or there's an upgrade you can purchase in the shop, or find in a treasure chest, because otherwise you can easily die, especially in the boss fights. Thankfully these eagle statues will always drop health, which is quite appreciated. Also, the nice fact is that if you hold C down when you're in midair, it'll temporarily keep you in the midair for a short while. It won't freeze the enemies, but it'll make it a lot easier to hit some of the enemies. Another nice scenario where if you use the explosive you can easily hit where these foes are. Unfortunately, Quill cannot swim through the water, but I suppose that'll be a final upgrade. I suppose in the final game there'll also be a shop where you can increase the max number of upgrades that the Quill can hold. Now the main story of the game is that Quill and one of his pet owls, Koji, is exploring this island in order to rescue Koji's sister, Ichiro, from one of the evil deities of this island. Or at least that's what the story goes. So we have to fight all these monsters, or the native creatures or inhabitants of this island, throughout 8 different environments. Whoa, that's a lot of enemies. Oh, never mind, they'll have 9 uniquely themed areas, so 8 probably normal ones, and then a final dungeon or something. The upgrade I got actually increases Koji's attack range, which is really appreciated. That was my fault though. But in these areas you can easily rack up a lot of gold, which will be more necessary once there's a shop unlocked. Because right now, as you can only hold up to 4 upgrades, it's not as necessary. But I do appreciate the tie to stringing together gameplay and how rewarding getting combos are, and how many variety of challenges each of the feathers are. Most of the feathers have their own unique niche that really helps them. I just wish that we had more tougher enemies so the ice feather was better represented in this game. Oh, and by the way, because of how the procedural generation works in this title, even though it's going to be a roguelite in its final game, in this title it's more like a roguelite. Because once you die, you're sent all the way back to the beginning with no gems, no upgrades, and the map is regenerated. In the final game though, we'll be sent back to the main hub world, and I think we'll retain some of the gold we got. So that's appreciated. I kind of appreciate roguelites more than roguelites, mainly because some of the progression is kept in between each run, so it doesn't feel like each run is kind of wasted. Although I don't mind playing through roguelikes, I just like some progression to persist between each run. Though that may be just me having less and less time to play these games as I've grown up. As a child or a younger one, I would have more time to play through these. And while I found more interesting games to use my time through, personally speaking. Spend my time with. That's what I was saying. Here's the one where it releases all the poison gas. Oh yeah, in the rooms with these skull icons, you have to destroy all the enemies before you can get past. And apparently Eagle Island will have a strong 3-act plot, whatever that means, or 3-act story. We'll see what that means. Oh yeah, increased attack ranges is going to be really useful, because now Koji can attack from longer ranges, which is helpful for certain boss encounters. But what I would really like is an upgrade where it increases Koji's attack speed. Now, truth be told, I actually did another run of this game I did a Let's Try of this game a bit earlier, about a week ago. But I decided to redo the video entirely, mainly because there was a certain thing I wasn't really impressed with when I was discussing the game. Oh, thank you for explaining how to launch elemental attacks, those being fire, ice, and wind. Okay, here's an enemy which really benefits from using ice. Essentially, when it raises up there, you freeze it and then use your normal attacks, because now you can easily kill it. Otherwise, you have to wait for it to get back up, and then you have to be able to hurt it. You don't have much time in order to kill off this enemy, but that's the only reason why the ice feather is useful in this one, mainly because it freezes it and you can hit it twice. Otherwise, you only have a short period of time where you can actually hit it before the armadillo lowers its shell. We're almost at the boss, I believe. Oh, never mind, I went the wrong way. Another nice thing about Koji's increased attack range, if I can aim it right, I can actually hit these, whatever these birds are. I think these are birds. I'm doing terribly at hitting things though, so I think I should just rely on my normal attack. After all, I need as many of these gems in order to fight the boss, who is a lot harder than the stage preceding it. Sure, more gem slots would be nice, especially for the boss. Well, I went the wrong way, but I suppose it's typical of a lot of procedural generated games. It's possible to go completely the wrong direction. And I didn't really get the map power-up, unfortunately. Like I said, LP is cursed because when I did my test runs, in all 3 of my test runs of this game, I always got the map in my 3rd chest. But here, I never get it. At least I was lucky to get the compass this time, because in my previous Let's Try, well, I didn't even get the compass. I think we're all set though. I have all the items that I need, I suppose. I just need to be careful to be at full health before I reach the boss, and I don't want to be too cautious. I don't want to be too not careful, because okay, once you see these blocks over here with that certain skull icon and the red blocks, it means you're right at the boss. You want to be at full health for this boss fight because or mini boss fight, because it's much more difficult than a stage preceding it. Alright, let's try doing this. I'm going to be using the frost arrow. Come on. I'm waiting for it to jump out. Okay, this is what I want. Yeah, I want to freeze it and then I can wail on it easily. The problem is because it jumps all over the place, it's really hard to hit. That's what I mean. It's so hard to actually get a solid hit on this boss without dying. And especially because it keeps jumping around the place, you can easily just die if you're not careful. Especially it's kind of hard to predict when it's going to jump up. I think it jumps up whenever you throw Quill, when you throw Koji, but apparently sometimes it decides not to. I made this boss fight look a lot easier in this run, but in some of my test runs I died so easily to this. And by the way, the Kickstarter succeeded, so thanks to everyone who backed. So let's return back to the menu, and I'll show off the challenge mode. Challenge mode is just like the standard demo, but instead you have a much longer map, and the enemies are more numerous and placed in much more difficult to fight configurations. Plus, we have a lot more bosses, or mini-bosses. You saw how difficult that mini-boss was, now just imagine having to fight it 3 times. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. But the best thing for fighting that boss is, if you can aim it right, try freezing the boss as quickly as possible, and so that you can quickly wail on it with Quill's normal feather. That's how I'm easily able to take care of it. Otherwise, trying to hit it while it keeps jumping around can be quite a pain in. And I'm going to try getting as many treasures as possible so I can be in better shape for fighting the boss. Oh, Streamlined is really useful against the boss fight. The 2 things I would suggest when fighting this boss are getting the Streamlined power-up, as well as the gem slot power-up, so you have more usages for the Ice Feather, and you can actually hit the boss more easily because of Koji's increased launch speed. But despite of my grievances with the boss fight, I still quite enjoyed this game's demo and what it shows how the final game will be. It's a nice representation of what I think the final game will become, and I hope it lives up to its expectations. Now, if there's one thing I would like to improve the boss fight, I would say to add certain other enemies, harder enemies, which better introduce this boss fight, add a checkpoint, which I think will be in the final game, because there'll be persistence with the gold or upgrades or something, or increase the amount of base or max health that Quill has. Like, instead of having 3 health, give him 4 health so there's a better chance of survival. Otherwise, it's really risky to fight the boss with only 3 hearts. At least that's from my personal experience. Basically, either make the boss a little bit easier to take care of, increase the base max health that Quill has, or just make Koji more powerful, or give some enemies that he can train off of better. Oh boy, we're going to have to fight with a solid ground now. And this one is a lot more challenging, mainly because, well, it now fires stones. Once it gets into the ground, it'll fire stones. But if you can get it locked to a corner, you can easily take care of it. But you gotta be careful where it jumps up, because it'll be stones. And they do damage. As you can see here, when it jumps, whenever you shoot it jumps, but sometimes, depending on when AI decides to, it may decide to jump anyway. Oh, that was really lucky. I thought I was gonna die over there, especially without upgrades, but the streamline makes this fight so much easier. But the next encounter against this mini-boss or boss, oh, in this challenge mode, it's gonna be a lot harder. You'll soon see why. And it also depends on how the game decides to randomly generate this room. The game may decide to make the boss fight a lot harder depending on how the room structure is. If there was a lot more high ground in this room, or in that room, it would be a lot easier to fight it. Oh, that was bad. Oh, phew. At least killing off the enemy seems to despawn their projectiles. But what I would really like is to get more upgrades, but it seems that, well, upgrades are a little bit more sparse, or treasure chests are more sparse in challenge mode. Getting a lot more gold compared to the previous run, but I don't have anything to spend it with. Well, I suppose that's why it's called challenge mode. Okay, we have a treasure chest. And like I said, it's always so satisfying to string together combos like this. Well, I would rather like more gem slots, but that helps. I don't want more gold at this point. I have more than enough than I know what to spend it with. Hopefully there's a treasure chest or something. No, there isn't. Yeah, one of the best upgrades I would say in the demo is at least the map or compass, so you know roughly where the stages go or continue on to. Another nice thing is the environmental interactions of this game. If you may notice very carefully when Quill walks, the grass moves a little bit, some of the poppy seeds move around. It's quite nice to look at. It feels like the world is something that you can live in, and it's quite a beautiful place. Quite beautiful but dangerous island environment, as you can see from all the bosses. I'm not going to be facing the boss just yet, I'm going to be returning there. But as I was saying, this environment is so beautiful, it feels like a real world environment in a way. It feels like something you could live in, but filled with a lot of jungle dangers. I can just imagine how much more dangerous the jungle environment is going to get in the future. Oh, and that was really bad, I took a hit there. Compass. I'm going to take a risk with this boss fight. You'll see in a moment why I don't like the falling boss fight. Or why it's so difficult. Well, if I die, I'll just end off this part. Let's get the explosives ready. That's why. Because there are two of them. Oh. And I can't really hit both of them at once. You have to be careful and at least take care. If you can defeat one of them, the boss fight becomes so much easier. Otherwise this happens. Oh phew, I got a 1 health. Oh, on my last Let's Try I failed at this boss fight, mainly because they ambushed me. Somehow I got it this time. Oh, we got some new music. That's neat. Well, it's time to progress forward. I suppose in the final game there'll also be a hard mode, which I will go through, but I suppose it'll be kind of a pain. Okay, another one of these moles rooms. I suppose that'll be the second environment of this game, all of these ruins or something. Whoa, that was a bit too close there. There's always about 3 moles in these rooms. Oh, that was bad. Oh, wow, Thank you, collision detection. It just phased right through Quill's head. Well, not complaining. Okay, now I can see what I see. Moles? Okay. Okay, and now I can see in these rooms, before you enter them, you can see there's a skull icon indicating there'll be enemies, and the pickaxes indicates there'll be moles. Okay, even more gold seeds. Wonderful. I have too many gold seeds at this point. There are a lot more of these challenge rooms, though. Ah. Unfortunately, I missed this. But if you miss it the first time, the moles will try spawning in closer to you, so that's appreciated. Seriously, how many mole rooms are we going to have in a row? Yeah, the next one is this. I suppose it's challenge mode, but still, I didn't expect this to be enemy rush mode. And these enemies aren't really that tough. The only thing that are really of a danger to me are the bosses. Okay, we're out of there. Okay, we at last have more armadillos. What makes the armadillos look a little bit dangerous is that when they jump up, they can fire that tree spikes or wood towers. You don't see it over here because it doesn't go over ledges, but it can be really dangerous in close corridors. I'm going to be running past all of you, mainly because I want to see what the treasure is. But I want to be really cautious because... there I go. As I was saying, I want to be really cautious in case the next boss fight decides to show up. Unfortunately, just more gold seeds. There's one thing that sometimes the collision detection can work a little bit against me because of how the edge works. I would like to have more gold, though. Oh, I didn't mean to choose that. I wish I had streamlined. That's unfortunate. I wish there was a confirm option to indicate, do you want to switch? I wanted to throw that in the trash instead. That's a great combo. That's one of the best combos I've got in this game, the 9x. That's wonderful. And it seems that as you get to higher and higher combos, you also get a higher chance of health drops dropping. That's nice. Whoa, the sound is a little bit clipping because of this. Okay, let's try finding the next boss. I wish that it actually told me that at the beginning room that you could launch elemental attacks with gems. After all, that is a really important part of the game for survival. Let me see if I can get a better item. Oh yeah, Phoenix Tear, that's definitely a better item. Okay, I think I'm almost at the end as well. This is much farther than I've gone before. Hopefully I don't jinx it on the boss encounter. If there was also another thing I would like to have a quick reset of the... Just like in Mega Man 9 or Mega Man 10, you actually had the option where if you press the quick weapon left and quick weapon right, it would default you back to the Mega Buster. I would like something similar in this game so it could be defaulted back to the default feather, instead of having to dig through all of these. I was also liking the final version to have rebindable keys, but it always kind of throws me off that X is the jump button instead of Z, and C is the shoot button instead of sliding or something. Oh, streamlined, that's wonderful. I don't need more gold seeds, so I'll take more streamlined. Too bad I don't have two of them, but hey, you take what you can. I'm playing really cautiously here because I want to get to the boss fight with at least full health. In all my 8 attempts at playing this game, off-screen, on-screen, I've never seen any items that upgrade your max health. That's what I would really like in the final game to be there. Or at least armor or something. And also a way to increase the max number of upgrade slots. If you're really quick, you can quickly kill this enemy, but I'm not. No, I don't need satchel. It would have been nice when exploring, but, well, I don't really have a use for it. In the final game, I'd also like to have a bag that can at least store some excess ones. Excess upgrades. Okay, this is the wrong direction. Let's go the other way. And thankfully, throughout all this game time, the physics has been solid and there's been no slowdown. It's always been a solid 60 FPS. Quite appreciated. There have been some oddities with the sound, but that sound clipping, but that seems to only happen when there are a lot of explosions or enemies dying at the same time. One of the other things what happened there? One of the annoying things I've noticed in this game, though, is sometimes it's a little bit hard to determine when Koji will return back to you. It seems to always happen whenever Quill flashes white, that's when Koji will return. But I always find it a little bit. I always think Koji will return a little bit earlier than what I expect him to be, which can result in situations where I just get hit. Sure, let's go even more streamlined. I'm at max health now. Now, if I can only keep it for the boss fight coming. Really, you have to be careful with the mushrooms because I can easily get caught by their poison gas attack. As I said in the beginning of this mode, challenge mode maps are at least twice as big. So you'll be here for quite a while. Okay, the game is a little bit clipping the sound is clipping for some reason. Strange. Okay, we're at the boss fight. Oh wait, it's Frost as always. Are we going to be fighting two of them? Oh yes, we are. Oh. That's what I meant by how the Koji returning slower than what I would expect him to be. Oh no, there's 3 of them now. That's the other thing. If you can't infinitely hold Koji forward, which I forgot, after a short period of time will be launched forward, and that's what resulted in my death. Oh well, I almost completed challenge mode, but yeah, fighting 3 of those bosses at once, that's really a pain, especially one of them creating rocks when he jumps out. Really, like I said, even in normal mode, I would like to have better training for that boss fight, because if you die to it, you're sent all the way back to the beginning, and it's kind of frustrating. Because no other enemies in this level actually jump over you. And it takes 6 or 7 6 to 8 hits to destroy it, so it can be quite a nuisance to fight. Especially if you don't have gems or you can't aim correctly with the ice feather. Even with the ice feather, you don't have that much time to wail on it. And the issue gets compounded in the challenge mode, of course. So I'd like to see Quill have at least base 4 health, or a mode that allows him that base 4 health or armor or whatever. The bosses being downgraded, or the stages beforehand being upgraded in difficulty a little bit so you get more used to the bosses. Because, well, the stages before the bosses are relatively a breeze to get through. Most of the enemies don't really pose much of a threat, and none of the enemies really rush towards you. All the enemies are stationary, or they orbit around a certain pattern. I mean, take a look at it. The mushrooms always stay at they stay rooted to the ground, same with the piranha plants, but the mushrooms can fire at you, but only horizontally. The birds or eagles or hawks or whatever, they'll always circle around a certain area if you get near them. And the moles will fire at you, but they don't really actively chase after you unless they dig back in the hole, but even then when they're jumping upwards, they always stay vertically rooted to a certain horizontal position. So I'd like to see the previous stage increase in difficulty a little bit so you get better used to the boss, so it isn't such a large difficulty spike, at least in my own rewards. Personally, I did a lot better during those fights compared to my Let's Tries, or compared to my first Let's Try. But I suppose that was due to luck and how the AI worked, and how the procedurally generated landscape of the boss made it easier to fight them. But other than those gripes, I really enjoyed this game. Really enjoyed playing through the alpha tech demo of this game. I enjoyed the physics, I enjoyed the environment, I enjoyed how satisfying it is to take care of each of the foes, stringing together combos, the variety of uses each feather has, fire for groups of enemies, wind for lines of enemies, and frozen for tougher foes like bosses and armadillos. I would like to see in the final game more feather types, more creative usages, and the ability to upgrade Quill's max health and the max upgrades you can have, or at least storing them somewhere else. And the gold being maintained between runs or something, or you can at least buy items from shops in the main hub world. I would love to see how each of the other 8 main worlds will play out in the final game, as well as certain other boss fights. Well then, as usual, in the description below I'll leave links to the itch.io and GameJolt pages for the demo. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Toodles!